To this now, a new report has revealed a disturbing picture of the water quality at some of the beaches in the Cape Peninsula. The Project Blue report has found high levels of E. coli and e.coli at the beaches, posing public health and safety risk. Now, to speak to us about this, I'm joined by Professor Petrik from the Department of Chemistry at the University of Western Cape. Professor, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Now, can you provide your perspective on the contamination levels revealed by Project Blue?
Well, one needs to realize that South Africa generally has a sewerage problem in the sense that our infrastructure is aging and not adequate. And Cape Town has the same problem as the rest of the country. And unfortunately in Cape Town, the city is also pumping out raw sewage through the marine outfalls and expecting the sea to dilute the sewage and not return it back to the coast. But depending on the weather conditions and the wind conditions and the tide conditions, the sewage does make landfall from time to time. And this is the problem with the type of pollution that we're seeing, is it's intermittent. Sometimes the sea doesn't do the adequate dilution that the city relies on to keep the levels of pollution low. And in that case, we have a situation where there are clear signals of pathogens and other disease-causing organisms in the water. And this is tested by testing for E. coli and e.coli, which are bacteria that come from your feces, simply put. Yeah. And we find that even at the blue flag peak, there are issues.
So is it standard operating procedure for the various departments or for the city to allow effluent into the sea in order for it to be cleaned out, if you will, or that process of recycling? Is that standard operating procedure?
Yes. The marine outfalls have been operating for decades in some cases. And in the case of the Greenpoint outfall, for more than a century. And that services the city all the way from Salt River all the way down round to Hout Bay. So everybody living from Salt River to Hout Bay, all the effluent from those inhabitants is going straight into the sea without dilution. And the rest of the city's sewage is going to the treatment plants, but the treatment plants are not working properly. And the result is that a lot of poorly treated effluent is going into the sea via the rivers and the estuaries around Cape Town. So we have a real problem into the pollution for
Now, Professor, given the lack of public warnings during the sampling period, what immediate measures should be taken to ensure better communication of health risks to beachgoers in particular?
Well, the first thing is that there should be signage up and people should note that there are risks involved in swimming in the ocean. These tests that we do only to give people a real-time guarantee that the water is safe to swim in. You can only tell them after a week whether the water that they swam in last week was safe to swim in. So this is the trouble with this type of pollution, because it's intermittent. You never know when it is going to connected to the...
Professor, we're struggling to connect with you, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. And that's Professor Petrik, Senior Professor of Chemistry at the University of Western Cape, speaking to us about the dangers of E. coli, particularly in some of those beaches